Adam Smith, the father of modern economics. Part 1. Early life and Scottish Enlightenment, 1723 to 1740. In the small Scottish town of Kirkcaldy on June 5, 1723, a child was born who would later revolutionize economic thought. Adam Smith entered the world in challenging circumstances. His father, a customs officer also named Adam Smith, had passed away 5 months before his birth, leaving his mother Margaret Douglas to raise him alone. This early loss would shape young Adam's character, fostering a close relationship with his mother that lasted throughout his life. The modest circumstances of his childhood in Kirkcaldy, a bustling port town near Edinburgh, exposed him to the practical workings of trade and commerce from an early age. The town's maritime activities, with ships constantly arriving and departing, carrying goods from across the world, provided young Smith with his first glimpses of the international trade networks he would later theorize about. His early education at the Burgh School of Kirkcaldy was marked by his exceptional intellectual capacity and an insatiable curiosity about the world around him. Despite the limitations of 18th-century Scottish provincial education, Smith's brilliant mind flourished under the guidance of his teachers, who recognized and nurtured his remarkable abilities. The Scotland of Smith's youth was experiencing what would later be known as the Scottish Enlightenment, a period of extraordinary intellectual and cultural flourishing. This renaissance of thought encompassed philosophy, science, literature, and economic theory, creating an environment that would profoundly influence Smith's intellectual development. The coffee houses and debating societies of Edinburgh buzzed with discussions about reason, progress, and the improvement of society. Young Smith was exposed to these new ideas through local intellectual circles and the progressive atmosphere that permeated Scottish society. The Presbyterian Church's emphasis on education and literacy contributed to a culture of learning and debate that would shape Smith's approach to understanding human behavior and social institutions. The unique Scottish education system, which combined practical knowledge with philosophical inquiry, provided Smith with the foundation for his later work. This period also saw Scotland transitioning from a primarily agricultural society to one increasingly engaged in commerce and manufacturing, changes that would later inform Smith's economic theories. The intellectual ferment of the Scottish Enlightenment taught Smith to question established wisdom and seek rational explanations for social and economic phenomena. Part 2. University years and academic development, 1740 to 1751. At the remarkably young age of 14, Smith began his studies at the University of Glasgow, an institution that would profoundly shape his intellectual development. The university was a center of progressive thought, where new ideas about human nature, society, and moral philosophy were actively debated. Under the mentorship of Francis Hutcheson, a pioneering figure in moral philosophy, Smith was introduced to concepts that would become fundamental to his own work. Hutcheson's emphasis on human benevolence as a natural trait and his theories about the relationship between individual happiness and public good deeply influenced Smith's later writings. The Glasgow years exposed Smith to a wide range of subjects, including mathematics, natural philosophy, science, logic, and moral philosophy. His exceptional performance earned him the Snell Exhibition Scholarship to Oxford University in 1740. This period at Glasgow marked Smith's first systematic encounter with economic thought, as discussions about trade, banking, and public finance were integral to the university's curriculum. The intellectual atmosphere of Glasgow, with its emphasis on empirical observation and rational analysis, helped shape Smith's methodological approach to understanding social and economic phenomena. In 1740, Smith embarked on his journey to Oxford's Balliol College, an experience that would prove both challenging and formative. The Oxford of the 1740s was intellectually stagnant compared to the vibrant atmosphere of Glasgow, a contrast that Smith noted with disappointment. However, this very contrast helped sharpen his critical faculties and independent thinking. During his 6 years at Oxford, Smith engaged in extensive self-directed study, spending long hours in the library reading widely in literature, philosophy, and classical works. Despite the institutional limitations, he used this time to develop his own ideas about human nature, society, and economics. The relative isolation and intellectual freedom allowed him to synthesize various influences into his own unique perspective. His Oxford years also exposed him to English society and its commercial development, providing valuable comparative insights with his Scottish experience. Smith's observations of the differences between English and Scottish educational systems, social structures, and economic development would later inform his analysis of institutional factors in economic growth. These years of intense study and reflection laid the groundwork for his later theoretical innovations in economics and moral philosophy. Part 3. The Making of a Professor, 1751 to 1764. Upon returning to Scotland, Smith's intellectual journey took a decisive turn when he was appointed Professor of Logic at the University of Glasgow in 1751, soon followed by his appointment as Chair of Moral Philosophy in 1752. This position placed him at the heart of Scotland's intellectual life during the height of the Scottish Enlightenment. His lectures covered a broad spectrum of subjects, including ethics, rhetoric, jurisprudence, and political economy. The structure of his lectures would later form the foundation for both the theory of moral sentiments and the wealth of nations. Smith's teaching methodology was revolutionary for its time. He conducted his lectures in English rather than Latin, making complex ideas accessible to a broader audience. His classroom became a laboratory for developing and refining his theories about human behavior, markets, and social institutions. The daily interaction with students forced him to clarify his ideas and develop clear explanations for complex economic phenomena. During this period, Smith also formed crucial friendships with other leading intellectuals, including David Hume, whose philosophical insights would significantly influence Smith's own work. His reputation grew steadily, attracting students from across Europe and establishing him as a leading figure in Scottish intellectual circles. The publication of The Theory of Moral Sentiments in 1759 marked Smith's emergence as a major philosophical voice. This work, exploring the psychological foundations of morality and the role of sympathy in human behavior, established his reputation beyond Scotland. The book's success demonstrated Smith's ability to combine careful observation of human nature with systematic theoretical analysis. During his professorship, Smith also began developing his economic ideas, particularly through his lectures on jurisprudence and political economy. These lectures, preserved through student notes, reveal the gradual evolution of his economic thought. He developed key concepts such as the division of labor, the role of self-interest in economic behavior, and the importance of free markets. His position at Glasgow also allowed him to observe firsthand the commercial and industrial development transforming Scotland. The university's location in one of Britain's major commercial centers provided Smith with practical examples of economic principles in action. His interactions with merchants, manufacturers, and bankers enriched his understanding of commercial practices and economic mechanisms, providing crucial empirical foundation for his later theoretical work. Part 4. The Wealth of Nations Journey, 1764 to 1776. In 1764, Smith embarked on a transformative journey as the private tutor to the young Duke of Buccleuch, traveling through France and Switzerland for 2 years. This grand tour exposed Smith to continental European intellectual circles and economic systems. In Paris, he engaged with the leading French economists of the time, including François Quesnay and Robert-Jacques Turgot, who were developing their own systematic approach to understanding economic phenomena. The physiocrats, as they were known, influenced Smith's thinking about the circulation of wealth and the importance of agriculture, though he would later critique and refine their ideas. During his travels, Smith observed firsthand the different economic systems and policies across Europe, noting the effects of various trade restrictions, tax systems, and government regulations. He witnessed both the prosperity and poverty resulting from different economic arrangements, observations that would inform his later arguments for free trade and market liberalization. The journey also allowed Smith to gather extensive data and examples that would later populate The Wealth of Nations. His conversations with merchants, government officials, and fellow intellectuals across Europe provided him with a comprehensive understanding of international commerce and economic policy. Upon returning to Britain in 1766, Smith retired to his mother's house in Kirkcaldy, where he spent the next decade writing an inquiry into the nature and causes of the wealth of nations. This period of intense scholarly work was marked by careful research, systematic analysis, and countless revisions. Smith drew upon his vast knowledge of history, his observations from European travels, and his theoretical insights to create a comprehensive analysis of economic systems. The writing process was methodical and demanding. Smith frequently isolated himself for long periods, emerging only to discuss ideas with close friends like David Hume. During this time, he developed his most famous concepts, including the invisible hand of the market and the benefits of free trade. The work expanded far beyond a simple treatise on economics, incorporating discussions of history, sociology, and political theory. Smith's analysis was revolutionary in its systematic approach to understanding how markets function and its emphasis on the role of individual self-interest in promoting social welfare. The book's scope was unprecedented, addressing everything from the determination of prices and wages to the role of banks and the principles of taxation. By 1775, after nearly 10 years of work, Smith had completed his masterpiece, which would be published in 1776, the same year as the American Declaration of Independence. Part 5. Impact and Legacy, 1776 to 1790. The publication of The Wealth of Nations in 1776 marked a watershed moment in economic thought and immediately generated intense discussion across Europe. The book's first printing sold out in 6 months, and its influence quickly spread beyond academic circles to reach politicians, businessmen, and policymakers. Edmund Burke praised it in Parliament, while government officials in various countries began considering Smith's policy recommendations. The work's impact was particularly significant in challenging the prevailing mercantile system, which emphasized accumulating precious metals and maintaining favorable trade balances. Smith's advocacy for free trade and market competition provided intellectual ammunition for those seeking to reform economic policies. His ideas influenced major policy shifts, including the gradual dismantling of trade restrictions and the reform of colonial administration. The book's success led to Smith's appointment as Commissioner of Customs in Scotland in 1778, allowing him to observe firsthand the practical implementation of trade policies. Despite the demands of this position, he continued to refine his ideas, publishing revised editions of both The Wealth of Nations and The Theory of Moral Sentiments. His reputation grew to such an extent that he became an informal advisor to several prominent politicians, including the Prime Minister Lord North. In his final years, Smith witnessed the beginning of the Industrial Revolution and the American Revolution, events that would prove the relevance of his economic theories. He continued to update The Wealth of Nations to address new economic developments and respond to critics. His last years were spent in Edinburgh, where he was a central figure in the city's intellectual life and a founding member of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. Despite declining health, he maintained an active correspondence with scholars and political figures across Europe and America. His influence extended beyond economics to shape discussions of social policy, education, and colonial administration. Before his death in 1790, Smith ordered most of his unpublished manuscripts to be destroyed, leaving behind only his published works and some correspondence. His death was mourned across Europe, with obituaries praising his contributions to understanding economic and social phenomena. His friend and biographer Douglas Stewart noted that Smith had achieved a rare combination of theoretical insight and practical wisdom, creating a legacy that would influence generations of thinkers. Part 6. Modern Relevance and Contemporary Applications. The relevance of Smith's ideas to modern economics and public policy remains remarkably strong. His analysis of market mechanisms, division of labor, and international trade continues to inform contemporary economic theory and policy debates. The concept of the invisible hand remains central to understanding market dynamics, while his insights into the relationship between self-interest and social welfare help explain both the benefits and limitations of market economies. Modern economists regularly draw on Smith's work to analyze globalization, trade policy, and market regulation. His observations about the tendency of businesses to form cartels and seek government protection from competition remain pertinent to contemporary antitrust policy. Smith's broader insights about institutional frameworks, the role of government, and the importance of education have influenced development economics and public policy. His emphasis on the moral foundations of economic behavior has gained renewed attention in behavioral economics and discussions of corporate social responsibility. Even his criticisms of excessive market concentration and corporate influence on government policy resonate with current debates about economic inequality and political corruption. Looking to the future, Smith's ideas continue to evolve and find new applications. His nuanced understanding of human nature, recognizing both self-interest and sympathy, offers valuable insights for designing economic institutions and policies that promote both efficiency and fairness. Contemporary challenges such as climate change, technological disruption, and global inequality require the kind of systematic thinking that Smith pioneered. His emphasis on the importance of education and institutional frameworks in economic development remains relevant to emerging economies. The current debates about the role of government in the economy often echo Smith's careful analysis of when public intervention is necessary and when market forces should prevail. His insights about the relationship between economic and political freedom inform discussions about democratic capitalism and authoritarian market systems. The rise of digital platforms and the gig economy raises new questions about the nature of markets and competition that can be analyzed using Smith's framework. As the world grapples with transformative economic changes, Smith's combination of empirical observation, theoretical analysis, and moral reasoning continues to provide valuable guidance for understanding and shaping economic systems. Adam Smith's journey from a modest beginning in a Scottish coastal town to becoming the father of modern economics is a testament to the power of intellectual curiosity and systematic thinking. His life spanned one of the most transformative periods in economic history, and his insights continue to illuminate our understanding of markets, human behavior, and social institutions. Through The Theory of Moral Sentiments and The Wealth of Nations, Smith created a comprehensive framework for understanding both the moral and economic dimensions of human society. His ability to combine careful observation with theoretical innovation, practical wisdom with philosophical depth, and moral considerations with economic analysis makes him uniquely relevant to contemporary challenges. From the lecture halls of Glasgow to the salons of Paris, from his quiet study in Kirkcaldy to the corridors of power in London, Smith's journey reveals how great ideas emerge from the intersection of personal experience, intellectual discourse, and careful observation of the world around us. Thank you for exploring Adam Smith's inspiring story with us. For more fascinating histories of influential thinkers, subscribe to our channel and join our intellectual community. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know which historical figure you'd like to learn about next.